Virginia, House Freedom Caucus member who serves on the Budget Committee. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you,
because
Andrea.
we're trying to understand. There's so many cross currents here and moving parts. So you're right in the middle of it. You know it better than I, how the House caucus, the Republican caucus, is divided. Now trying to pass standalone spending bills, the appropriation bills, that the Senate has said they're rejecting. They do not agree on the spending levels. So now the House is pushing for a stopgap measure, an extension, but it's with deeper cuts than the president, the speaker, the Senate leadership all agreed to in July. So the White House and the Senate are not agreeing to that. So is the shutdown unavoidable now, given how far apart the two sides are and how time is running out to get anything passed?
Well, we're borrowing $200 billion a month, borrowing and spending. We're on track for a $2.2 trillion deficit. And the Senate Democrats are refusing to address our spending. They're refusing to address our border crisis. And we're suffering under the $1.7 trillion omnibus that was passed by all Democrats in the House and the Senate. And unfortunately, a complicit number of liberal Republicans in the Senate who joined on. And it was projected we'd have a $1.7 trillion deficit with that. And instead, we're having a $2.2 trillion. House Republicans are united in cutting our spending, addressing our border security, but the Democrats in the Senate refuse to go along. We're passing our spending bills out of the House, trying to break precedent of the last 20 years or so of failure by Congress to do that. And I call on Senate Democrats and Senate Republicans, for that matter, to join us in cutting our spending, addressing our fiscal situation, and securing our border.
I mean, you're absolutely right about the spending. But the fact is, there was an agreement in July that was supposed to have settled all of this, and it was negotiated by all four parties representing the branches, including the Speaker. So to go back on that agreement now and relitigate it is one issue. But separately, Senator Cornyn points out that according to every budget estimate, all the independent experts, Committee for Responsible Federal Budget, all of that, it costs more to shut the government down than you're saving, because of higher interest rates, because of the way the money is going to pile up, you know, the compounding of interest. So you're actually costing the taxpayers money by holding out, rather than agreeing to a short-term deal and then negotiating, you know,
yeah, but actually, Andrea, the fact is a $200 billion monthly deficit. We got $33 trillion in national debt. We're projected to reach $36 trillion at the current pace just by the end of this Congress. We're causing massive inflation. Interest rates are up. American people can't afford housing, groceries, utilities because of this massive inflation. It's going to get worse. We cannot do what Congress has been doing for decades. The Republican majority ran on fiscal responsibility. American people elected us to implement those policies. This is our opportunity to meet the moment, to rise to the occasion, to hold the Senate and the White House accountable for this amount of spending, this national debt that we're suffering under. And Republicans are united in doing that.
Well, we're talking past each other on the budget numbers. We're not going to agree on that. But let me ask you about the fact that with 48 hours to go, 2 days to go, how can you justify the impeachment, the time being spent on this impeachment inquiry by members who could otherwise be devoting their time to coming up with a solution here?
Well, simple answer, and the president should be impeached on the border invasion, in addition to the Biden crime family, the overwhelming evidence that's being confirmed and verified, investigated. But you know what? The Oversight Committee doesn't work on the appropriations process or on the budget. I serve on the Budget Committee and the Education Workforce Committee, and I'm the leadership team for the House Freedom Caucus. I'm focused on this appropriation spending budget battle. I don't have responsibility with the impeachment and the Oversight Committee. We got 435 members of Congress, dozens of committees. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. We owe it to the American people to investigate what might be the most corrupt president in the history of the country. When before have we had a sitting president accused of bribery, influence peddling, receiving millions of dollars for his family's corrupt overseas business dealings after he lied repeatedly to the American people in the last election in order to secure the votes? That's been demonstrably proven false. They've even changed the narrative. As you know, they no longer say he didn't know about his son's corrupt business dealings. Now they say, well, he wasn't officially in business, but we know he was facilitating those. We've got emails, we've got text messages, we've got audio recordings, we've got eyewitness testimony, we've got travel and visit logs. It's overwhelming, and we ought to impeach the president for the border as well as the Biden crime family activities.
I've got to just push back for a moment, because to call it the Biden crime family without evidence, because you have accusations.
Well, you're
no
lying there. You're being dishonest there to say there's no evidence. This is evidence that would be admissible in any kind of a case when you have texts, when you have emails, when you have testimony, when you have visit history, travel logs, those sorts of things. That is evidence. Now, you can dispute and debate the evidence and whether or not you think it proves beyond a reasonable doubt, but that's what the Oversight Committee is doing with the impeachment inquiry.
And a good deal of it was from, he was not even in office. It was after he left office from 2017, 2018.
It was when he was the sitting vice president. It was from when he was the sitting vice president when
That's
it goes
not what
back
the House
to,
Ways and Means Chairman presented.
He ran lying to the American people about whether or not his family made money off of China. He lied during the debate and said that. He lied repeatedly, said he didn't even know anything about his son's business dealings. We know that's demonstrably false.
These are accusations.
It may be uncomfortable.
It
may be uncomfortable for his defenders like you, but it's demonstrably false.
I'm not a defender. I'm simply trying to call the facts as we see them, as we know them at this time, sir. Evidence is presented. Evidence is contradicted.
Well, I would
evidence
ask
can
you,
then
did
be
you question
adjudicated.
the impeachment by the Democrats when they set the bar so low and they wanted to impeach tried to impeach President Trump based on a phone call? Based on a phone call when he was questioning the corruption with Burisma, and for that to be investigated. And now we've got President Biden on video bragging about getting the prosecutor fired in exchange for $1 billion in aid. That's evidence right there. That is evidence right there. You just said evidence didn't exist. We've got that evidence right there. The president is foolhardy enough to brag about that on video, on air during a discussion that he was having. That's your president.
We appreciate your point of view. Thank you for joining us today, Congressman Bob Good.